And we're recording. Okay, cool.
I don't remember what I was saying.
So we left off on when you went to basically check in on all the companies to see who'd be willing to work with you. And who told you no, who just laughed in your face, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Kinda.
And then, so where should I say the whole thing?
No, just let's just start from when. So let's just go with the first company. So Kimco.
It's already
recording. Okay. So when Kimco, did you approach Kimco?
Yeah.
What did they say?
So I think at first they were also just very skeptical because obviously they do want to sell us vehicles because electric vehicle is also one of the must developed industries in Taiwan, right? And so Kimco already has a vehicle out, but it's not selling well, and they're not investing in it that much at that time, right? Because again, it's like if you have a product but there's no market or there's no application, it's hard for them to push harder. So we are actually in a big buyer for them, right? Because we were like a couple thousand vehicles. Right, but of course, anybody who tells you they're going to spend big dollars on you, they're very skeptical, right? So I was like, yeah, of course, we should just start work from very, very small, humble beginnings, of course. Just give us 2 or 3 vehicles. We're gonna install our solutions, and then you guys could come check it out, and then we could start brainstorming on how it goes afterwards, right? So. From the moment they gave us their first vehicle for us to just test on, like within 2 or 3 months, we already have our prototype to show them, and then they were like, "Wow, this is out of nowhere." I mean, like how did we do this, right?
Really?
And it actually hit some of the pain points they've had, right? I think for large corporates, they get so used to the way they're doing things. I mean, I don't want to call them traditional, but it's just they're very used to. They have their own rhythm. They have a way of them doing things. Yeah. So for them to innovate is very difficult because ideas could be shut down by anybody in this whole bureaucracy, right? Or this hierarchy. Like it just gets lost. So a lot of things just never gets done. So for example, they're very, very impressed that we came up with a keyless solution.
Really?
Yeah. So at that moment, it's like keyless wasn't even a feature that we're trying to develop. It just naturally became that way because we wanted the cell phone to be the one that's controlling the vehicle, right? Not another key. So like we obviously from very beginning, our design was to have our telematics box in the vehicle to be able to receive instruction from the cloud, right? So obviously the phone is connected to the cloud, everything. So keyless wasn't our main point. But then when we displayed that, our solution is keyless, then they were like, oh, wow, you guys, whoa. We thought about this for 3 years. We don't know how to do it, but you guys did it in just like that.
3 years?
But again,
holy I'm sorry.
So yeah.
So much red tape.
Red tape, or just again, the motorcycle industry is not the electronics industry. It's not the it's not a high-tech industry. So they don't know. They just never really needed to learn. Right? And then there's no need, then there's no talent in the company. So I would say it's just they never had someone from the technology world talk to them. Right.
Was that portion, the wireless entry, was that like something that you that eventually sold to them, or no?
No, but they found their own solution through their existing ecosystem. Because again, we wouldn't dare to try to steal business from their already existing value chain. Right. So it's something that we told them it's doable. Then they found solutions within their own ecosystem. Of course, for us that's not our business.
Right.
I wouldn't just because I have it, so I will sell it to you. It's more like we are together creating the new norm for this industry, right? So so they started to becoming more of a believer that Wemo scooter is capable of doing what we're doing today. Right?
So, like, when, at least for you, when did you feel like, okay, this partnership's actually working? Do you remember that day, that feeling that you had, like, oh, this is actually working?
Actually, for us, I don't even really know who the unsung hero is,
Oh.
but I know that there was this one critical meeting where there's a whole crowd of people in that meeting, right? And I mean, to cut the story really short, I basically impressed the audience at that meeting, but I don't know who I impressed.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then, so the person later on said, you know, this team is solid. You guys should pursue. Right? That's basically how it happened. But I really don't know who that person is, and they never told me, and it's already lost. Yeah.
So when did actual production, and then when did production start for the vehicles, and then when did testing start, and then when was the launch?
We actually did it in all really crammed all the times together. We literally started in 2016, early 2016, and then we launched by the end of 2016.
But how many vehicles do you guys have?
At launch, we had 200.
200.
Yeah.
And that was like the soft launch, or was that like
Yeah,
the official launch?
pretty much soft launch, because obviously we thought it was the official launch.
Oh, okay. So we treated that so.
We treated it as the official launch. You know, we had a whole press release. We had the vice mayor of Taipei come join us, and then, you know, we did it at the Xinyu district. You know,
the shopping
district. You know, we're showcasing something brand new, right? And it was actually pretty successful as well, because it's something nobody ever seen before. So the press came, and you know, and we had test riding and everything. You know, so people were impressed. Right? It was generally good, right? But why did I say it was a soft release? Because obviously we still had problems with the connectivity between the vehicle and the telematics, and, you know, the cloud and everything. So, you know, we're still fixing issues there. But at the same time, we realized 200 vehicles was not enough. Not even close to being convenient or serviceable. It was literally like people are really impressed with the technology or the capabilities of this single vehicle. But then if you go back to the whole business model of bringing convenience for people to stop using a personal vehicle and start switching to a sharing vehicle, and also public transportation, right?
Right.
Then it cannot be, you know, we cannot do that yet with 200 vehicles.
Yeah.
Right?
So probably people you think probably thought like, oh, cool, this is cool, and then when they look on the map, they're like, what?
Yeah, I have to walk 500 kilometers to get to one, right?
Yeah.
Hell no, right?
Okay, so.
But so it became more of a small user base would start using it, and then those are the ones that still continuously using it, right? It became more of their private vehicle kind of, or it would be like a group of, you know, homogeneous audience, like students, right? So at that time, I guess we were quite lucky that, you know, so the NTU at the National Taiwan University, we had a huge following there. So most of the vehicles are there. Right?
For the students.
And then the students would ride from school to where they live, their dormitory, or like the nearby, like, you know, shopping areas, the night markets and such. Right. So there's enough of higher concentration. There's a little bit of a sharing, but going on, so we could still sort of, you know,
have enough data.
Enough data, and enough to figure out how do we improve this network and improve the product and service, right? But at the same time, we knew that, okay, we got to increase the number of vehicles. Yeah. And that's when we started fundraising. We started to figure out how we could, you know, go from 200 to 1,000 to 2,000 to now, you know, almost 7,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, smokes, that's a lot. So when you started off with 200, which is still impressive to me, and then was there like, okay, we'll start off with this, see how everything goes, see if I still want to do this, or I've been committed. That's it. Was it like, okay, 200, 800, 1,600, and then 3,000? Was there, were you guys following a path, or was it just whatever you can get, that's what we're doing?
I guess we were following a path, but it wasn't like, we know the exact vehicle count.
No,
Right?
okay.
Why is it 200 to 1,000? Why is it 1,000 to 2,000? There isn't a calculated formula behind this. It was really,
Whatever you can afford, you just.
whatever we could afford, whatever my gut feeling hunch is as the CEO of the company at that time, right? And then what the market is telling us. There's still some science behind this. Right? For example, the distance from the user to the vehicle, we know, right? The success rate of a rental success rate, we know, right? Because if the vehicle is 400 meters away from you, and then if the user showed interest but didn't rent, then we know it's a fail. But if it's 200 meters away from you and the rental was successful, right? So these kind of data we could use to calculate the so-called suitable density, right? And then couple that with a lot of demographic data and everything, so we sort of know what the number is. But of course, is it 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, whatever? It's really just a lot of it's not quantifiable, right?
Oh, okay.
It's more of a qualified answer, right? So, but now we're more and more confident about this. Like it's really we know from customer satisfactions, we know from cumulative user count, we know from like turnover, we know from a lot of these metrics that we know in the future. If we go to another city, or if we add more vehicles in this city, then how many do we need? We have a higher confidence level of that number.
Okay. I do want to go back and touch bases really quick on education. So, do you think if you've been fully educated here in Taiwan, fully educated, I mean, till you graduate college, do you think you'd still think the way you think now and operate the way you operate now, or is it because you got a mixture and you're able to see both sides of how things are done that you're able to become to this level of success and beyond?
Oh my God, so difficult to answer.
I'm not going to give you easy questions, man.
Well, I mean, I think it's more, I don't know if I have the right, I don't know how to answer it because I've never had, Taiwan's education system. Right? I was, American school is still, even though we're not in America, but our teachers are all Americans, they're white, and so we had that education. So obviously, I wasn't, taking tests every single day because in the traditional Taiwanese schools, you basically every single week there's probably 3 tests. And then every month there's a monthly test, and then there's a section test at the end of the quarter, right? So you're literally always in tests, right? But I've never gone through that, so I wouldn't know if my brains would be trained differently, unfortunately, right? So,
do you think it helped going to USC? Do you think that you had a higher education in the States than you would get here?
See, that's I never went to a Taiwanese university. It's hard for me to make a judgment based on that, right? Because there are still a lot of bright people that I've met that came from these schools, right? Okay. Even some of the ones that are my mentees or my colleagues, right? They're really bright. They're very smart. They might, the only disadvantage they might have is probably language because they don't speak English as much. Right. But they're hella smart. Right. Okay. So it's hard for me to judge that. But then obviously we also still, as the internet or a new startup, for the new economy, we attract young talents that's from the better schools. Right. So I cannot speak for the general public. Yeah. Right. Okay. So it's again, for me it's hard. It's not that I just don't know how to answer it because I don't have a good comparison. All right.
Now going back to Wemo, so you had launched it, you've now at 7,000 units. For you personally, are you satisfied with what you've done so far? And are you happy that you've reached certain goals or milestones?
Oh, of course not. Yes, we are actually the most. So Taipei is the number one city with the most shared motorcycle
In the world?
in the world.
Awesome.
From all the three companies together. Right? So obviously we have at least half of the market share. But we do feel like the sharing population could be at least 10x more.
More.
Of course, it'll be difficult for us to get there at an accelerated pace, right? Because the younger generation, the Gen Zs or the Gen Alphas, as people are calling them now, they will grow up to want to use sharing, to want to be more eco-friendly, to want to be doing things that's more sustainable, right? But then I can't wait 10 years for them to grow up, right?
Yeah.
So in order for me to accelerate this, it'll still be a lot of work. We have to convince the government that you need to put in more effort, put in more subsidies into supporting this. We gotta be working with the public transportations to make it more convenient for the users. We also need to just dump more vehicles into this market and then convince more users that this is more convenient than their own vehicle, right? Because going back to the indicator that I was mentioning earlier, how far away are you from a vehicle, right?
That's the most important thing.
That's one of the more important points, because for an average Taiwanese person, their personal motorcycle is probably 10 to 30 meters away from them at any time they want to use this vehicle. For ours, our average is still 150 meters.
Yeah, that's too far for them.
Yeah.
It's like that's like quadruple.
Yeah. But of course, there's a lot of people that are already content.
Yeah.
But we think that we need to make this number less than 50 meters in order to really have another massive adoption of this vehicle, this service, right?
Right. Okay. So now that you're here at this kind of place in time, you're getting bigger and bigger. What you've reached the business milestones, but what milestones do you have for yourself that you've reached that you're very, very proud of?
I mean, the fact that there are supporting customers, I think I'm already very, very satisfied. I wouldn't say satisfied. I'm very, very content. I'm very happy that our service has changed at least a lot of some people's lifestyle for the better, right? I guess I shouldn't say some, but we have almost 1 million. I mean, we have over 1 million registered users. We have 1,000, 10,000 of people using it every single day, right? So I mean, it's actually something that people are adopting us as the way of life, right? And
That's
then
good.
I have a lot of young college students or even high schoolers, because sometimes when I go out and make speeches, they come and tell me they're so excited that Weibo is something that they could be using. Right? For whatever reason, there's so many different reasons. Some of the people, their parents wouldn't buy them a vehicle, a motorcycle, right? And then some people are just they actually can't even afford one, right? So there's a lot of different reasons that they like Weibo or like what we were doing, right? So I'm very grateful for that.
And at the when you guys first started in 2016, you said, was there anyone else doing electric vehicles? Of course there were. Was there anyone else in Taiwan trying to do electric scooters?
Sharing, or do you mean
just electric scooters in general?
Well, again, going back to the list of manufacturers, they're all manufacturers. No one is actually doing sharing or so-called extremely short-term rental. Okay. But obviously, since we started, we now have a few other competitors as well.
Would you say that there's like 2 companies on here that do it?
Yeah, mainly, but of course there's some other smaller ones as well.
So would you say that people saw this happen, they saw that you stayed around for a while? You weren't like, I'm here 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and just been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think that those people saw you guys and like, okay, we can do it, but let's do it differently than them? And so essentially you guys are like the grandfather almost
Yeah.
of the whole sharing program for scooters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We are. I mean, obviously, people or our competitors, it's easy for them to twist the business model, or actually twist. They are already a generation different, you know, from us because the vehicles that we buy are like 5-6 years ago and everything, right? They when they enter, you know, 2-3 years ago, they obviously have newer vehicles because you know how consumers are. They're always ever changing. They want something new.
The design.
It doesn't necessarily have to be better. It just has to be new, right? So they do have advantage in that sense. But then for us, you know, our major focus is still on consumer satisfaction and making sure that our vehicles are safe and you know easy to ride and all that. Right? So we spend a lot of time to improve our user experience, user journey. So I think that's still one of the most determining factors. So a lot of the users that use our service are still sticking with us, right? Because it's not just one. It's not vehicle. It's just one of the entire like a user journey. Right? There's so many different touch points that we can improve on, and we're constantly trying to make sure every single touch point is smooth for them.
For you, what has been the most, so this is the last question I have for this portion, and then we'll move on to the technology aspect of it.
Okay, because then, even for earlier I said, there are these things that we do, I could go into depth as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, if I was running this company, or you're running this company, what are some of the issues when you're working and then trying to have a work-balance life? You know, because this is a very important subject that I always ask everyone. Because
there's no work balance. It's okay. Finish the question first.
No, it's very important because you know we're entering a new age now where work-balance life is very important. Where it used to be just work, right? The whole hustle economy, basically, that's changing now. You can see that the younger generation does not give a fuck. They actually just want to work and be happy, and they're willing to give up certain freedoms, which I don't think is right in a certain way. But for you, how do you find the work balance life for you personally? Because you do have kids now, and it's not you don't have kids anymore. So
well, again, I think it's hard for me to say I have a work-life balance, but then I'm also, you know, not the Gen Z age, right? And you know, for us who were brought up to be working too much, so I did grow up from that generation. So I'm always I won't say I'm always working, but I'm always thinking about how to make people better, right? So even if I'm again in the shower or on the toilet, I'm just always thinking about, you know, if we could try this, try that, right? So I think a lot of the strategic thinking came from those times. I'm not necessarily working. I'm not like, you know, in front of a computer crunching on numbers or making presentations, but I'm always thinking about what could be done next or better, right? So in that sense, you know, I don't think I have work-life balance. But then if you say how long of an hour do I work, you know, I work 8 hours a day like everybody else. At least now I do, because when I was at McKinsey, I worked 15 hours a day or 12 hours a day, right? Oh, wow. So, but that's different because you have very tight schedules that you just have to chase, right? Right. You have a contract with our clients to finish this project in 3 months that you have to finish and deliver. I think for a startup or for, I guess, the normal companies, there's no ending. Of course, if you move faster, you might have an edge over others, but you don't really know, right? So it still comes back to your own mentality of how what kind of pace you want to set for yourself, right? And I think if you treat your career like a marathon or a sprint is how different the companies will become, right? So I'm treating it like a marathon, right? I'm not treating it like a sprint. Maybe the first 5 years we were sprinting because we didn't know if this company would be alive, right?
5 years is a very good indication that you're going to be alive.
Yeah. So the first 5 years you're sprinting like crazy, right? You're trying to make all the mistakes so you could fix them and then make sure you survive, right? But then now that we're entering our 7th, 8th year, you know, we obviously did a lot to slow down to make sure that our organization health or our financial health is more important now, right? We want to make sure we go in the long haul, and then we want to make sure that, you know, we do actually come up with products and services that could be maintainable, or it could be everlasting. Like a lot of times before it was just you basically pay for it, right? But then it's probably not economically feasible, right? So now we're changing to do all of that so that we have a sustainable future. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean working 12 hours a day wouldn't give you that. You know? So it doesn't mean that even if everybody in the company works 12 hours a day, you know, it probably wouldn't reach the same, you know, the results. So why not take it easier or make it more sustainable? And then obviously people are I don't want to say happier. I don't know if they're happier, but at least the pace is not as crazy. Right?
Not too crazy, so that they burn themselves out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's always an interesting one. A lot of people always want to know how these highly successful people have a work-balance life and how they treat their employees. And, you know, what's the proper way to balance? Okay, these guys need a vacation. I should probably not have them do anything, or these guys need to work harder, you know, to achieve the goals that we currently have. And those are the things kind of people want.
I think it's very different styles, and there are people that are willing to adopt both, and there are people that are very successful in adopting both, right? It's really hard to compare if Apple is more successful or Foxconn is more successful, even though
they're both.
Sure, maybe people would say Apple is a lot more successful, but you know, it's
who's to say?
Who is to say, right? And then, but then obviously, lifestyle-wise, I think both of their lifestyle cuts probably really bad. But you know, Foxconn is known to be, you know, working even longer hours, right? And then like, you know, all the officials are like on call, like they have morning sessions every Saturday for like for that entire morning, and then the entire morning is like 5 hours because you go from 7 to 12, right?
Yeah, that's
right. And so even as a senior manager, you're living the military lifestyle, right?
Oh, that's horrible.
Hey, but they're successful, right? Yeah. And there's also people that doesn't do that, right? You look at like Airbnb model or like any other startup model, right? They don't have to do that. Of course, I'm sure they're very disciplined in the things they do, you know, in their company culture and everything, and they're developing great companies, but they don't have to work 15 hours a day, right?
Okay. Well, let's touch bases on the technology aspects. I think some people will be interested in that. So if you can give us before we go to details, and you don't have to tell us everything, just the basic stuff, because I know that's your intellectual property. How does it work? What is it? And how do you get the communication through to the scooters and through your phone?
I guess it's not rocket science, right?
Well,
but
you'd be surprised. Some people, you'd be surprised.
Well, in plain English, I wouldn't go into the detailed technology because then I have to get my CTO to come talk about it anyway, right? So we have a telematics box. It's connected to the motorcycle, right? So through CAN bus protocol, which is the standard, right? And then so our telematics box reads all these different information from the vehicle, right? Obviously, mainly ones that have to do with safety, or ones that have to do with the battery, right? So if the vehicle battery is in low battery, we will know. If the vehicle battery is high temperature over a certain level, then we would know. If the engine, if something goes wrong, then we would know, right? So these kind of signals goes to the back, our telematics box, right? So the telematics box does some sort of a little bit of a edge. You know, it could determine. It had a little bit of intelligence to determine and talk to the vehicle, right? But of course, at the same time, it sends back a lot of the signals to the cloud, and then it sends some of the information to our back end, or it sends it to the cell phone, right? So that's how the users could control the vehicle, right? Because through, you know, we allow the users to turn on the vehicle, to open the trunk, that kind of simple controls, right? And then we wouldn't allow them to do different. There are also things that we don't allow them to do. Like, for example, you cannot shut down the vehicle when you're riding.
Okay.
Right. So you know that kind of stuff is built into the vehicle. It's not just from the cell phone. If somebody's trying to hack, it's not doable unless, of course, they have to go into the firmware of the telematics box and then change the EEPROM or whatever, and you know, really hack that vehicle. But then that's not doable through the clouds, right? If you go out in the street and do some crazy stuff, of course they could hack anything, right? But anyway, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? We're trying to we try our best to make sure of the security and safety of the vehicles that you're riding. Right? So a normal user wouldn't be able to try to do something that would harm a rider's safety.
So the telematics box is the brain, and it's able to connect through the cloud, through the internet, and then your phone obviously connects to the internet, and then can enable, once you register, you get approved, you can start using it. And so basically, it's this one box that controls everything.
Yes.
That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, basically. Right. And then, of course, there's a lot of sensors and on the vehicle that detects the health of the vehicle, or the whereabouts of the vehicle, or
GPS.
Yeah, or collects environmental data. So these kind of sensors are also connected to the telematics box, and so you know, it stores all these information as well.
And how many generations of the boxes have you been through so far?
Oh, countless. Yeah, I mean, officially on our official count is about 10.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, but
are these boxes made here in Taiwan, or have they been boxes made in China?
I should say the assembly is done here, but obviously the different parts come from all over the place. Some from China as well, of course, so the motherboard or whatever.
Okay. And you'll continue to use this. So as the needs upgrade for the people, as the vehicles get better designed or a newer version, the box will also be upgraded for other features that are needed. Add features to it, or
actually the box is quite robust as it is now. Our latest version is, right. But of course, when we test with new vehicles, we still make sure we have. We need to figure out modifications necessary. Usually, it's not modification directly to the box design, but new features we're trying to add. For example, we actually now have 4-wheel vehicles in our platform through partners, right? So we're enabling our partners to use our app and service so that they could get the benefit of our users to use their service, right? So for a 4-wheel car, to rent a 4-wheel car is very different from renting a 2-wheel motorcycle. So one of the most obvious differences, we don't have a door on a motorcycle, right? But you have a door on a car. So how do I open that door, right? So, you know,
it's more research.
There's Bluetooth and NFC and all that kind of different available technology that we could use, but on our box before we never needed these. Right? So we have to add this new feature onto it, but it's not that we need to actually develop more basic telemax designs already done, right?
Right, okay.
That kind of stuff.
So it's pretty, the technology on this is very simple. It's not too overcomplicated.
No, yeah. So it's more of a business model innovation
Mm-hmm.
than a technology innovation. But of course, the technology needs to be done right for the user to feel like this is a few generations. Actually, I say this is an upgrade from their current offerings, right?
How often do you upgrade the boxes?
Right now, it's not as often. We do more updates on the application now, on the app, not as much on the box. But if we do, users don't actually feel it because it's just overnight. We OTA it to our boxes, right? So it gets done like a couple of months at once.
Okay. And so when the scooters are out there and they're running low on battery, how do you determine like, okay, we can still rent this one out compared to like, okay, we can't rent this out anymore?
Well, we know how much juice is left on the vehicle.
And what's the juice level where you say, no, we can't rent this out? Because I realized after 40, when it says 40% battery life, it does not have the same zip, the torque.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yes, so all these system in place is to protect the user and also protect the battery. Right? So
Okay.
it's mostly because the battery knows it doesn't have a lot of juice left, so it reduces the torque or the speed or whatever.
Okay.
So the electricity output gets slower, so it doesn't damage the vehicle in case of like really drying up, right? Because a lot of people will ride it to zero. It's the same on your phones, right? Because then when your phone battery goes to 0%, it's actually not at 0%, or else you wouldn't be able to turn it back on, or you wouldn't be able to show, show the little flashing the screen telling you that your phone is out of juice, right? It would just not work, right?
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit of electricity that's left to protect the device and the battery itself, right? So obviously the motorcycle battery has that as well, right? So even if you run it out of juice, like the vehicle stops, there's still some electricity left in the vehicle. But before that, of course, you need the mechanism again is to try to warn the user that the battery's running out, so you have to slow down. Don't use up the battery. Right? And then once that hit, then when you return the vehicle goes offline, and then our worker will go and refill that. Right?
So let's just say that I'm a user and I'm working in the office. I just brought the Wemo from my place to that place, and it's like at 35%. Not usable. Anyone that sees 35%, they'll be like, if this is an ultra short trip, I'm using it.
Yeah.
But it's not, then they're not going to use it.
Yeah.
So for me, signing off and it's still there, it's on my map, it's still visible at 35%.
Yes.
And I'm working, when can I expect to turn the map back on, look downstairs to see that same exact scooter where I parked it, to be fully back to 100%?
You mean
the battery,
when?
Yeah, when will someone come swap the battery?
Within a few hours for sure. But at the same time, the vehicle is still rentable, because again, somebody like you mentioned, maybe they will use it on a really short trip, especially because we give a discount at that rate or at that low battery level already. So people will be like, oh, okay, I'm only going to ride 2 kilometers, and then it's already discounted 50%. I could use this, right? But at the same time, if nobody's using it, then our worker would change it within a couple hours.
How many hours before you say, okay, cool, we can change the battery, no one's using it?
Under 20%, we for sure is offline. But above 20%, it's either the vehicle gets used by a worker. the vehicle is either booked by a user first, or if a worker is near it, they can also book the vehicle to make a battery swap. So
Okay.
it's coexisting at the same time.
So here in Taiwan, there's like, have you thought about just having the people battery swap themselves? Because I see battery stations here.
Yeah, of course. So that's obviously our
Target.
plan for the next vehicle, right? Because our current vehicle is 6-7 years old. It doesn't when we started, there's no battery infrastructure for users to do this. And it's not as first, it's not as user friendly, and then second, it's the how should I say this? It's if we have the user do it by themselves, the risk of them doing it wrong is high, right? Because the design is not designed for anybody to do the swapping, right? But now with Gogoro being here in the market, and training this market to do battery swapping, and having a certain way of doing this, so our supplier Kimco also is doing this, right? So they're also deploying their own version, which we will be adopting in the near future.
Awesome. Let them pay for the infrastructure while you.
Well, yeah, I mean it's at least for Taiwan market, it's now the norm. We don't know if it will be elsewhere in the world, but then at least for Taiwan, this model, if these manufacturers are planning to make it happen in the long haul, of course we'll invest ourselves into this as well.
Okay.
It helps to reduce a lot, like you mentioned. If the users are able to swap batteries, it helps reduce so much. On the cost side, it helps reduce a lot. On the consumer side, they're actually happy as well, because it's actually really easy, and then they don't have range anxiety as they would with the old system.
When you think about everything that you've done, you think about everything that's happened, and you think about everything that will happen. We're coming to the closing portion of this. How and when do you see Taiwan going completely electric for scooters?
Well, right now the government says 2040. We hope it doesn't get later than that. It used to be 2035. But, I wouldn't get into the details, but you could guess why. It's obviously the manufacturers fighting back and everything, so they postponed it. But I think it also has to do a lot with what us corporates could offer the market. We have the responsibility to educate the customers that there's already better solutions out there, and that the better solution is definitely going to be in the long haul much more beneficial to the community and the society, and to him personally. Because for the people that ride extremely heavily, they should still go and buy a vehicle, right? But for those of us, which is more than 70% of us, we don't ride more than 5 times a month.
Right.
For those people, hey, consider sharing. It's a much better option. It's much hassle free, and it's actually cheaper. Because a lot of people don't consider the time spent or the amount of work they need to do on maintenance and that into account, right? So in the end, when we're able to do that, we should hopefully move the 2040 time forward, right? That's hopefully that's what we would be able to establish, right?
So before we come to an end, there's 2 questions I usually ask everybody. So this is the first question. How old are you right now?
43 this year.
So just say somehow time travel was invented and we were able to time travel back. At 15-year-old you, and you're able to meet and talk to yourself, what advice would you give to 15-year-old you? At 29-year-old you, what advice at 29-year-old would you give yourself at 29? and then your current age right now, we'll just say 39. What advice would you give 39 yourself? 39-year-old self. Let's start with 15 years old. What would you tell yourself at 15?
These are questions I never think about, but 15-year-old self.
These are good questions.
15-year-old self.
What advice would you give 15-year-old self?
Let's see, this is
Anything. It doesn't have to be about business.
This is freshman year of high school, right?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be about business. It's not bad.
I'd be like, yeah, you just go get a girlfriend. Don't wait until college.
Okay. So that would be that 15-year-old you tell yourself.
I think it's more like, I think the 15-year-old me wasn't really thinking about a lot of things. Like I think I should be more determined on getting some goals done, or getting making things making things happen. I should word it like this, because I think the 15-year-old me was so just living the life. I don't know how to say it, but I'm just having fun, but I didn't set a lot of real goals for myself, other than, okay, yeah, I need to go to a college, I need to get into a good school, right, and all that, right? But then I didn't say, okay, I need to read 100 books, I need to get a girlfriend, I need to, all that, right? I didn't set those goals for myself, so I didn't press myself hard enough. That's what I'm trying to get to, right? So I'm just like, okay, if this thing happened, it happens. If it didn't, oh, okay, whatever, right? So I didn't push myself hard enough. I didn't set realistic goals for myself that is sort of challenging but attainable, right? So I think because of that, I matured at a very late age. As I would say in Taiwanese, I would say 我很晚成熟, right? Like, I don't know how to really express it in English. Like even out of college, I still consider myself like I'm still a kid. I didn't have real responsibilities. Okay, sure, I'm making money, I'm going to work, but as an engineer, I think the engineering life is also very, very different from a normal person's life, especially if you don't have kids, you don't have family and all that, right? You continue to live the sheltered life, or I guess maybe the greenhouse flower life. I guess that's the more accurate term. I'm more of a greenhouse flower. I'm so well protected. I didn't even if something fails, I've never failed really, really hard before. So I didn't really experience a lot of that. I think part of it is I didn't set any real goals for myself either, right?
So you basically tell yourself two things. You tell your 15-year-old two things. One, the most important one, get a girlfriend.
Yes.
Number two, take life just a little bit more serious.
A little bit more seriously. Yeah. Start something and try to make it happen.
Finish it.
Follow through, and I mean, setting that goal is actually quite important.
And now let's skip to 29-year-old you. What would you tell 29-year-old you? What advice would you give 29-year-old you, even though he doesn't want it?
Well, 29-year-old me actually started a business school, so I would say get more girlfriends.
That seems to be the recurring theme here.
No, that's just kidding by side. But I think at that time, I was already entering a risk-free environment, which we always say MBA is, right? It's like 2 years of your life where you could experience as much as you can without losing anything.
Oh, no
it's risk-free, so you could try anything you want, right? So it's like a break time from your ordinary life, right? I definitely tried a lot of different things, but I think I could still try a lot more. So I would tell my 29-year-old self to even push yourself, to experience life as more, travel more than I probably did. I didn't travel as much. I sort of regretted that. to experience life as is probably the more accurate word. Right? Trying things, meaning to experience life even more. You know, talk to people. Like, I mean, obviously we still learn. I mean, met a lot of new people, new friends, but you know, I'm still sort of the shy self, being Asian and all. You know, bottom of the food chain, so that you know you don't talk to the Caucasians or the Europeans as much. Of course, I still made friends, but then you know, I probably, you know, if I tell myself to speak to 100 people from different nationalities from you, I didn't, right?
Oh, okay.
But I think at my 29-year self, I had the opportunity. I should do so, right?
You're the second person to bring that up to me. Man, if we had more time, that's another subject matter that can be its own thing about just going out there and talking to people.
Yeah.
And not being afraid. You know, all right, so let's jump to 39-year-old you. You know, that was like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? What would you tell yourself 2 or 3 years ago?
COVID is coming. Exactly. That was the time. Right? COVID is coming. Shut down everything. Shut down all the planning. Like,
oh my gosh, that's so true. But that's what you tell yourself. Shut down.
I mean, I think when you say 33, because it's so clear, so close from where I am right now. I mean, it's basically just I have to warn myself what will be coming.
You wouldn't tell yourself about anything else? No.
I think it's because I'm already halfway into we know exactly what we want to do, but you wouldn't plan out a 3-year detour, right? Because we were actually expanding right before COVID. We doubled our.
That would be the only one life advice you'd give yourself?
No, we doubled the size of our company. And I have to fire everyone.
Yeah, right? But if you're saying, what I'm saying is,
you
met your 39-year-old self. The only thing you tell yourself, I said, is COVID's coming, figure it out.
COVID's coming, do things differently from what you planned.
Okay, but you wouldn't give me any other life advice that you understand now about life, like kids coming, this kind of stuff? Not really. Oh, wow.
It's only 4 years ago. Right, it's only 3-4 years ago. I wouldn't, I mean, I think our family, nothing has much changed or anything.
Do you think that if I ask you this question when you're in your 60s, I ask you the same question, it's like...
It'll probably be a lot different, but again, it's only been 3-4 years.
Yeah. But do you think you give the different advice to your 50-year-old self now that you've had even longer time to think about things?
Probably not. I think it's been long enough.
The last question is, what is the best advice you've been given? And what would be the best advice you think you'd be able to give someone else if someone that was young and hungry and wanted to start a business just like you? What advice would you give that girl or boy? So let's start with the first one. What's the best advice you've been given?
There are so many, but I think one of the recent ones that carried me through a lot of the hardship would be this one. I don't remember the exact quote. I could find the exact quote, but it's basically about
that's okay. When you find it, send it to me, and I'll make sure that that's the epilogue. I'll read the quote first to enter our conversation.
Okay, it's from the movie, right? It's basically saying that the worst, everything will come out right at the end, right? If it isn't right, then it hasn't been the end yet, right? So.
I've never heard that one before. That's very good.
I know. I mean, the exact word I don't remember right now, but so basically, it's like I think it carried me through some of the worst times during the pandemic, especially because it hit our industry very, very hard, right? And now we're getting back on track, right? So, and then things are getting much better now. So, so yeah, I mean, when shit happens, it you just have to keep going at it.
So what's been the best advice someone's given you face to face that to this day you carry?
it's hard to pinpoint one, right? I think if you want to say, if I want to say one, then I would say, but it's been said by many different people in very different using different words, right? But there's one that came from my grandfather's brother, who actually founded Xinhong Corporation, right? So the quote is, if you remain status quo, then you are already behind.
Wow, that's pretty.
Right. So it's basically just saying that keep innovating, right? Keep
adapt or die.
Adapt or die, right? So that was his quote. In Chinese, it was 维持现状，即是落伍.
That's fucking awesome.
Right. So I think that will be the quote that I ever since I was really young, then I listened to it. Of course, when I was young, it didn't really mean anything to me. But then as I grow older, it
means more
and more. And the reason why this kept with me even when I was young, because those 8 words were hanging on the walls of the house. Right? but then
that's so hilarious.
Yeah. So so it's something that I felt like but a lot of people say the same thing. So
just in different terms,
very different terms. So even for Wemo, like we know that if we don't keep innovating, we don't keep changing our business, we will be wiped over. Obsolete. Right. Just think about this couple of months, right? Yeah. How
the banking systems.
The banking system failing is one thing, but like how ChatGPT and these AI generated content is changing a lot of people's job already. It's ridiculous.
Right. Especially writers. At least for
writers, graphic designers, right? Content creators. There's a lot of people that be affected.
So, what would be the best advice you can give someone, a young, hungry kid, doesn't matter, girl or boy, comes up to you, and you guys have a basic conversation, and you start to realize, oh, there's something to this person. And then you realize, oh, this person's actually listening to me. What advice would you give that kid, or not a kid, but what advice would you give that person, man or woman, if they ask you for their advice on how to start a business? Or how about going to doing a business?
I think I would tell them that just don't do anything that makes you cannot sleep at night. Because I mean in terms of advice, I guess a lot of people would think that giving them advice on how to do better in their business or what so or not. I think for me it's more make sure that you don't betray your heart. It's more important.
Okay.
Make sure you don't do something. For me, it's more of an integrity thing. Right? Make sure you don't do something that you take the wrong route. Right?
Okay.
You go through the devil's route and backstab, betray, or bribe, or whatever, that kind of stuff. But there's so many people that does that kind of stuff. Right? So for me, it would be just don't do anything that makes you cannot sleep at night. That would be my take.
That's a very good advice.
But a lot of people might still be able to sleep if they backstab people. But
that's a different type of person.
A different type of person. Yeah. But if you're not that type of person, don't do it. You will regret it.
Everything that we talked about this past hour, I always let the individual give them their final thoughts or final words. Is there something that you want to talk about that you didn't have time to talk about? Or is there any final thoughts on everything that we talked about?
No, I guess before this, I want to add on to earlier when I said we emphasize so much on service, right? So maybe you could cut this back in earlier.
Okay.
So we emphasize so much on service, right? And we do it very, very differently from others. So others probably just stayed at the original motorcycle sharing, and they never really changed anything, or they never try to enhance their service with new technology. But for example, even just this past year, right, we worked with Google to more accurately allow for GPS location. We work with Google to enhance our GPS accuracy.
Okay.
Right? So you know how Google has this geospatial car going travel around, and they have a whole technology behind this where through photo they could accurately pinpoint where that GPS is. So remember how you were telling me earlier, we also have photo taking at the end of our journey and everything, right? So
that's cool.
We have a technology where that helps pinpoint the location of the vehicle much better than it was before, because a lot of times it's across on the street, right? Or it's totally just
actually
lost.
most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. But because of this, we're actually a lot more accurate than before, right? So this is something that we kept trying to innovate and trying to do better, but we don't see our competition doing that.
So you know, like when you take a picture of, it says take a picture of the scooter or its current location, and then it asks you to take a picture of the surrounding.
Yeah.
Does that even actually matter?
That's what it is.
So how does it track it if I'm doing this? Like super fast.
That's the technology. Right?
I was wondering, because I turned a couple times, I wonder if I do it really fast, are they actually gonna be able to tell?
That's exactly
So
where the Google API that we're using it comes into play. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So like for example, we're the only exclusive partner in Taiwan, actually all of Asia, for transportation. Okay. Right? And then also like we have parking lots. Cooperative. I don't know if you've used it yet.
Not yet.
But like if you go to Xinyi district, there's no parking space in Xinyi
But
district.
you work with parking lots.
But we work with Mizukoshi, we work with like the parking lot across on 101. We work with Warner Brothers Theater.
Okay.
Warner, sorry,
Show.
It's not called Warner Brothers anymore. It's
Show.
V-Show Cinemas, and then there's a cafe building, and then you could park in their parking lots, right? So we have like 20 some parking lots all over the city, right? In major locations, right? So that's something nobody else has also.
We're gonna shoot a little quick ending, but I actually really need to use the bathroom right now.
Oh, okay.
Like